And now, after years of planning, sweating, and going broke, here is the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
I'll alert the media.
Why they would give this man a podcast is anyone's guess.
Then there is what could only be a bizarre coincidence or something else.
Welcome to the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Country music and fine moonshine. Finally, a podcast that lets it all hang out.
Let's level with America.
Got your boots? Ready for some whiskey?
These boots are made for walking.
One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
And now, the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Hey everyone, Jim here, Boots and Whiskey Podcast. Welcome to another episode of our show. Today we have Austin Snell on the program, but before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about everything that's been happening in Central Texas over this weekend. Our hearts and our prayers go out to everybody affected there, to all the families that have lost loved ones, to the devastating Christian summer camp that got taken out, and all those children that have been lost. And God, it breaks our heart here. And this episode is for you and for all of you. You know, we've been through tragedy on this podcast before. We've seen things, you know, that's just how life works. And, you know, I always have the thought of just not putting out an episode. But, you know, we got to keep going. It's my job to give you something to look forward to. So here it is. So with that, you know, I know there's a lot of donation stuff out there. Make sure that you're donating to the right places. You know, a lot of scams out there and stuff. So just, you know, be mindful of that and help if you can. But yeah. So, you know, again, our hearts and thoughts are in Texas. You know, today we have Austin Snell. Austin's got some great music. We just saw him not too long ago open for Brantley Gilbert out in Connecticut. Great show, great performer. This kid's got it. Like these songs that he's got are great, are absolutely great. He's putting out new music as we speak. You know, got a lot of cool things going on. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and this conversation with Austin. Good dude. Don't want to miss him. He's going out on the road, and if he's going to be in your neck of the woods, go see him, because, you know, that's what it's all about. Seeing these artists live and stuff. So we hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. What's coming up? Oh, we got Dierks Bentley, Zach Top, and the band Lula. Lula? Is it Lula? I'm sure you'll correct me. Coming up this weekend at Great Woods in Mansfield, Massachusetts. And then the following weekend, we got Thomas Rhett at Fenway. So got some cool stuff coming up. Again, thank you for being here. Sit back, relax, enjoy. If you're first time here, welcome. If it's your millionth time here, welcome back. Yeah, so welcome. Enjoy the show, and we will see you on the flip side. Cheers. It's like this will be the most unprofessional interview you ever do in your entire life.
I love it. That's the way I like them.
So first and foremost, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
We got to see you not too long ago.
Where was it?
You opened for Brantley down in Connecticut.
Okay,
and,
yeah.
And that was a fucking hell of a show, man. I think that was the first time we saw you, as far as I know.
Yeah, dude. That tour was one of the funnest tours I've been on, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, you can't tour with a better dude than Brantley.
No, dude. And Brantley was one of the first dudes that I've met, and one of the first dudes I played a show with in my professional career. So I've been trying to get on that tour for a while.
Yeah.
And, I played a show with him. I mean, this is probably 3 years ago now. I opened up for him in Birmingham, Alabama at an ATV park.
Holy shit.
You can imagine how that was with his fans.
Yeah, I can't imagine how that was.
And ever since then, dude, we've just kind of kept up with each other, man. And I've, you know, checked in on him every now and then. He does the same for me, and it's been awesome. He's a great dude to know, for sure.
Yeah, he really is. You know, we somebody that works for his label and stuff, we've become pretty good friends with. So whenever whenever Brantley comes through, and I have old family friends that know him personally really, really well. So,
Mhm.
it's nice. It's cool. And it's like, he's one of those dudes where I think if you are outside of this world, you may look at him and not expect the kind of dude that he is.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I agree with that. I agree with that. He definitely does look like I wouldn't fuck with him though.
Right. Right.
Uh,
But in real life, he's like this big teddy bear.
I
Like,
would still hate to piss him off.
oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, he's definitely a scary dude. I'm sure if you piss him off, but hey, we all can be, right?
Yeah, he's a sweetheart though.
Yeah. So how do you get into this world of country music? And because you have a very, I don't want to say distinct, but a very, you know, you have that Brantley sound, you have that Lakeview sound, all these bands and artists that are getting popular where that's like it's got that, kind of like, I don't want to say metal country because I think that sounds stupid, but it's like it's heavier.
Yeah, it's the rock. It's the rock
Right.
influence for sure. Yeah. I don't really know, dude. To be honest with you, I have just winged it my entire life. And I moved to Nashville in 2022 and had zero plans. Didn't really know anybody. And kind of just moved with the thought of maybe I'll be just a songwriter, maybe I'll be an artist. I don't know what
Sure.
or when any of it's going to happen. And so really just, moved to Nashville and wanted to write songs. And I kind of, I had always like loved the rock music. I grew up, my dad was a huge rock advocate. He had, all of the stuff in his car. Like we had Nirvana CDs and Nickelback, and Three Doors Down is my favorite band of all time. And so we would cycle through those CDs. If we were in his truck, we were listening to one of the 3 or 4 that he had.
Yeah.
And so, I grew up on that. Never in my life did I ever think that I would be doing anything in that vein.
Okay.
But when I moved to town, like I said, I kind of just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was, it's a really cool space to be in. I didn't think it was back then. But to be in a space where I don't like have any responsibility to do anything. And I feel like that's where you're the most creative, is when like I have no direction. Like I hadn't had any songs, do anything, didn't plan on putting music out. I feel like that's when you get the coolest stuff. And like, it's a little harder once it starts going and you're kind of like, married to this thing. And like, I feel like I have a responsibility to like kind of do that. And like, oh, this is what I've done so far, so I have to keep doing this. But like the space I was in when I moved to town was like, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do.
Yeah.
And me and my friends that also didn't have anything going on were just writing cool stuff. And I wrote Excuse the Mess with 2 really good friends of mine. And I remember walking in that room that day and we were just like, let's write something different. And if it sucks, then like literally no one has to hear it because nobody cares about us anyway right now. And so we wrote that, and it did what it did, and I put it out, and I love it.
So you literally moved to Nashville without any intent of anything.
I knew I loved music, and I wanted to write songs. Like I had written songs, for a few years at that point, and I knew that I had to be in Nashville to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like it wasn't feasible, I guess, at the time. Like I didn't have the vision of like, I want to, be this artist, and like, I want to be playing all these shows, and I want to put out my first album, and I want to, do all this and that. Like when I moved to town, I just moved to town because I love music and loved writing songs. And so, as like Nashville is the town for that, if you want to write songs, there's a whole community of dudes that just write songs.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do music in some capacity. So, like I said, I've just winged it my whole life. I've never known really what I was doing.
So,
yeah.
So before you moved to Nashville, were you playing shows or anything like that? Were you
not
nothing
at all, brother?
No shit.
No, I didn't. So my parents I always say I didn't pick up a guitar until I was in the military, but my parents actually bought me an electric guitar when I was like 5 years old, and they put me in lessons at the local guitar shop down the street. And I remember walking in, and the dude sent me home to learn how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on electric guitar, and I fucking hated it. And so I threw it down and never picked it back up until I joined the military and was bored out of my mind in my dorm room, and just kind of started doing it that way. I was bored and loved music and just was going to try my shot at learning guitar. So it kind of just started as that, and then I started learning covers, and I would send covers to my parents, like my mom. I've always sent my songs to my mom, and I would learn a song on guitar and I just send it to her, and she would always talk me into trying to post it on Facebook. At the time, it was just Facebook, and I always just didn't really think I was going to do that. And she talked me into doing it one time, and I did it, and I got a few likes from family members, and you get that first little dopamine hit off of enjoying what you're doing, and I kind of just started doing that as a hobby, and it graduated from being a hobby to that's all I was doing. And then I got bored with learning covers, so I started writing my own songs. And I mean, I was in the military working a full-time job, so I wasn't playing shows other than just sitting around playing for some drunk friends at a bonfire that didn't know the difference between me knowing the words and not knowing the words. And so, no, I mean, until I moved to Nashville, I moved after I got out of the Air Force in 2020. I moved back home to Georgia and worked a construction job, and I played one bar, 15-minute acoustic set. And other than that, I never played a show. I moved to Nashville. Again, didn't have any plans, and then Excuse the Mess happened. And my first full band show, other than I'd started playing rounds and stuff in Nashville, like little riders rounds here and there. And other than that, Whiskey Jam was my first full band show. And that was when Excuse the Mess and Tears had came out. And that's kind of my first shot. So I've had to learn a lot, man. It's been a lot.
Damn. Dude.
In comparison to somebody that, grew up playing bars and grew up, playing on Broadway, like I didn't do any of that. So when I was playing my first, shows was, Whiskey Jam, and then Warren Ziders tour was my first tour.
No,
yeah.
I'm sorry. The ADHD is kicking in, right? So do you ever get any shit from people for that? Like going from not that you haven't paid your dues, right?
Yeah.
But going from moving to town, writing a song or getting a song out there that kicks ass, and then getting all these opportunities? Or is it just one of those I don't want to say right place, right time to take away your talent, but
yeah,
I mean right place, right time.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had anybody talk shit to my face about it. They might talk behind closed doors about it, but I haven't heard anything. And, I don't know. I always kind of take it as I've always done better with things if I've just been thrown into it, have to figure it out.
Yeah, sink or swim.
I can sit, around a table and somebody tell me how to play a live show and how to interact with fans, or how to create a set list that keeps people involved the whole time. But it's not going to, click with me until I go out.
Until you do it. Yeah.
So, that's always been the way I prefer to do things. So, I mean, it's been, awesome for me. I've learned a shit ton in the last
I'm sure
years, especially with the first tour being that acoustic show. It was just me and my guitar player. And my brother was selling merch, and we were in a minivan and following Warren Ziders around. And, you learn how to interact with a crowd when it's just an acoustic set, and in between songs is complete silence. So
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely learned a lot, man. And I wouldn't have it any other way,
So let me go back a little bit. So what made you get into the Air Force?
I mean, long story short, I just was a horrible student in high school and had to get out of the house some way.
Yeah.
And didn't want to keep working at the Subway down the street. So I joined the military. I always, I guess, kind of knew that I wanted to join in some capacity. Just, from an early age, I just watched, war movies with my dad and thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And my grandpa was a Marine, and a few other of my family members were in the military. So I always felt like I would, at least do my 4 years, after high school. And I planned on joining the Army and doing that whole route and wanted to do cool shit. And I blew my knee out my junior year of high school. And so I couldn't get a waiver for that, which, looking back on everything, it happened for a reason. I don't think I'd be doing what I was doing right now if I'd have went that route. And so, I always, short answer is I always kind of knew I wanted to do that, and joined the Air Force in 2016 and did 4 years and got out. So
nice. Did you ever see any kind of combat or anything?
No. I was a crew chief on a cargo plane. I was pretty much an aircraft mechanic. And I did that, so I never, saw anything crazy, but other than planes coming back with, bullet holes in them and stuff like that, and having to fix
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I met, some of my best friends, and we, suffered together. As a mechanic, like versus everybody talks a lot of shit about the Air Force and
Yeah.
how easy we have it and stuff like that. But on the
Yeah.
mechanic side of the Air Force, we don't have it very good. I was working 16-hour days, 5-6 days a week, and
Damn.
we would switch. So I was in the aircraft hangar for most of my career, and then we would go from there were supposed to be 12-hour shifts, but we'd work 6 to 6 daytime for a week, and then we'd switch to 6 to 6 nighttime a week, and we did that for, pretty much my entire enlistment. So
Damn.
my sleep schedule is permanently ruined.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. For the rest of your life.
Yeah, man. But no, yeah, I had a good experience. I learned a lot. I learned how to live on my own. And I knew I needed to get out of the house and out of the city that I was in. We had moved to Kentucky. That's where I graduated high school, and had kind of found myself in the wrong group of people. So I knew how to get out of there, and that was my way out. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you had the sense to do it.
yeah, well, yeah, a lot of my friends did not have the sense to do that, and they're still doing exactly what they were doing after
Right.
high school. So
Right.
I knew I needed to get out of there.
So with the whoa, it was a long day at work today.
All right.
With the way you write your songs, right? Are you pulling from those experiences?
Oh, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to write from as much of a real place as possible, and if it's not from something I personally, related to, it's something that somebody's told me or something that somebody's talked to me about, and I don't know. As a songwriter, first, the ears are always open.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to sit in a conversation with somebody and not like hear something they say and like get on my phone and like write it down or whatever.
Yeah.
The songwriting ears are always open, but I mean, for the most part, yeah, a lot of my stuff is personal.
Yeah.
Sure.
Does it make it easier
What's that?
to write when it comes from somewhere personal?
For sure, yeah, I think so. I mean, some of the easiest songs that I've written, are super deep. Like, I mean, "Pray All the Way Home" was, something that, I felt super personal to, and it wasn't my title in the room. I wrote that with Michael Whitworth, Andrew Bayless, and Cam Walker, and it was actually Whitworth's title. And I don't know if you've heard his name before. I'm sure you probably have if you've talked to the Lakeview boys and that whole crowd. But it was actually his title. But I mean, I related so much to it, and like we've all kind of been there of just like living this life where you try to do better, and then like you just never do. You always end back up in the same situation and all this and that. And I mean, when it's that real and when like you feel that closely to it, man, it's like, I mean, we wrote that song in probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
That is one of those songs that you can relate to.
Yeah.
Regardless of, where you are in life, you've been through a lot of that.
Yep. And I mean, I pride myself in doing that, and not so much writing about. And I mean, there's a place for everything, like the trucks and beer and Friday night, tangled up in the sheets stuff is like, it's cool, and like I listen to it. I listen to Morgan Wallen's new album. I think it's great.
Do you?
Everybody, I think that music is super sick. I pride myself in, really narrowing in on the stuff that not a lot of people, talk about. And, that's why I started songwriting to begin with, is because it was, literally my therapy. I probably still need a therapist to this day, but, I mean, that's kind of just helped me through it all. So,
yeah. It's funny you bring up Morgan's album because, my knee-jerk reaction for that album was like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah. I think the album's sick. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great. I think, there's some really cool stuff, and there's some different sounds in there that I haven't heard in country music. And, I think there's some cool stuff. I think a lot of the songwriting on the album actually arguably is better than a lot of the other stuff he's done.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some songs on it that are really like, when you get down to the nitty gritty and the songwriting aspect of it are really, really good.
Yeah.
And then there are a few songs on there that are like, what the fuck? What is this?
Yeah, man. And that's the stuff that radio's going to eat up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what were you, did you have any influences going into any of this?
I mean, I wouldn't say I had really any strong influences of me trying to like recreate this, but
Sure.
I mean, I think with, how when you're real about something, like it kind of just happens the way it does. And I've definitely, growing up on the rock stuff, like I said, my dad was a big rock fan, and my mom, always had CMT Countdown on the TV when she was cleaning the house. So, I mean, I remember vividly just sitting cross-legged around in the living room on the floor and just watching CMT Countdown. So, I mean, I grew up on both, and you know, honestly, early on struggled with songwriting and the sound and like feeling really good about something until I found that, and I never
Yeah.
knew why. But I don't know. There's something easy that comes with being authentic, and you take a lot of the guesswork out of it whenever you're just doing something that you believe in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really helped me out. But as far as somebody specifically that I looked up to, I don't think I really did as much. I just loved the sound of all of
Yeah.
that stuff back then. So
Now, what about since you've moved to town and started doing all of the stuff that you're doing? Are there people in the industry that you have, come in contact with that now you do, kind of look up to, and I don't want to say emulate, but like,
yeah.
have that in the back of your mind when you're writing and
I wouldn't say so much musically. I mean, Brantley's one of the guys that I look up to just as a person and as an artist and how he
yeah,
carries himself, and him, just putting his foot down and doing what he believes in. And I've had conversations with him talking about, the label, because he's kind of taken me, under his wing a little bit, like early on. And, I've had some pretty cool conversations with him. And just like when I first met him and was having conversations with him was when all of my stuff was just starting. Like I was doing the label conversations and, all of the meetings with management, and, everybody wants to do this and make you do this. And, he was kind of the one that sat me down and kind of just was like, listen, dude, like you're going to be a lot more happy, regardless of whether or not, it works out down the road. You'll be a lot more happy doing something that you believe in doing and like what feels right to you versus listening to everybody else's opinion. I would much rather it not work out in the long run and me feel like I did what I wanted to do versus
yeah,
it not work out in the long run and me have just listened to everybody,
right,
everybody's
right.
opinion. So,
Yeah,
he's definitely a guy, yeah, for sure that helped me out with that. I mean, I've always been an Aldean fan.
yeah,
We were on the road with him last year, and just watching him play a show was the coolest thing in the world. And so, their show is a lot. I feel like ours, like it's high energy, and like they have that rocking guitar and a
yeah,
lot of his songs and stuff like that. And his stage presence is so cool. So I would say him for sure. I mean, I grew up watching him, So as far as playing a live show, he's somebody that I watched a lot. I mean, just because, like I said, I'd never played a show before and kind of just got thrown on a stage. So I've kind of just figured it out. And he was one of the dudes that, watching him, I kind of went back on. I mean, I saw him play a concert. I think he was, I was probably 16 or 17 when I first saw him play. And so, I mean, that was always in the back of my mind for sure.
yeah, yeah. I remember the first time I saw Aldean was, oh, it's got 10 years, 9 years ago now.
He's been doing it for a while, man.
Yeah, yeah, and like
And the
you
same
stop and you
dudes
think
too.
about it,
He's had the same dudes on stage with him for 20
right,
plus years.
right, right, and it's like some of those guys where you think about, you don't, as you get older and you're getting older with these people, like you don't realize how long they've actually been doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like I saw him 10 years ago, I saw him a few years ago, right when Try That on a Small Town came out. So that was a big thing. What was that, last year,
Yeah.
the year before?
Yep.
And then we're actually seeing him again this coming weekend at Fenway with Brooks and Dunn.
Hell yes.
So I'm psyched for that because I've never seen Brooks and Dunn, and those guys are just
Yeah, I
fucking
haven't seen
awesome.
them either. They're a bucket list for sure, though.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, right? When you're on a tour like the Brantley one you were just on, and
Mhm.
it's you and Travis Denning and him, and like, do you get in with like Travis too? Do you have conversations with those guys, or are you still at a stage where it's like very like don't speak unless spoken to kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of, one of the main reasons why I said that was one of the coolest tours is because a lot of the times, or at least kind of in my experience, I have been on the tours where it's like you don't talk to the headliner and
Yeah.
like you don't screw with what they have going on. They got a busy schedule, and like nor do I really expect them to come up to me and like say what's up. But with me knowing Brantley before the tour, and with Travis, I don't know if you talked to Travis at all, but
Yeah.
he's like
Yeah,
such
Travis
like,
has been on our show before.
dude,
He's a
he's
good
like he needs his own podcast too, because that dude just has stories out the
Right.
wazoo, like can just talk forever. But I mean, when you got a tour with guys that are that cool, man, like it's a different vibe. I mean, I saw Brantley every day of the tour, and like we would chat it up every night after his show, and like I went on stage and played with him every night, and Travis's green room was right next to ours, and like we saw each other at catering, and like we were always just kind of like around each other, and like it felt the coolest that I had been on a tour so far. And I mean, Aldean was great too, but he's so much like a busy dude, like has so
Right.
much going on.
Right. There's
And
a different level of stardom there.
yeah, and like I mean, I don't blame him either. I mean, I wouldn't want to go talk to everybody. He's talking to people all day, and like has a family out on the road. Like his kids were with him, and Brittany's hanging out and with them all the time. And I mean, I don't blame the guy, but like he's so busy that like I didn't get a whole lot of hangout time with him. I hung out with him the first night after the show, and we chatted it up in the green room and stuff like that. And after the tour, obviously, and then just here and there, but. I mean, the Brantley tour was just so cool, man.
Yeah, and like you can, I mean, I don't know if other people can tell, right? Or maybe I can tell because I've been just doing this now for a while and seeing different tours and whatnot. But like you can tell the opening acts and the direct supports that actually spend time with each other because there's just a different vibe. There's a different feel to a show when people are interacting outside of the stage.
Yeah, for sure. And even like me going out on stage with them every night, like playing, we put out that remix of Muddy Water, and, with me hanging out with him backstage, like when I went on stage with him, it was just like we were hanging out on stage, like I feel like it would have been a lot different vibe wise if, that was the only interaction we had was me going on stage with him. But yeah, it's also just a benefit of all of it. I felt super comfortable being on stage with him, and I've been on stage with other people, and it's not that way.
It was hilarious. I think we had to have seen the last night of the tour or the run with all of you guys on it or whatever the hell it was, because everybody came out and played bass on Travis's
Bro.
set. It was fucking hysterical. Like
that was my set, dude.
Oh, that was your set. That's right.
That was my set.
That's right.
That was the end of the tour prank.
That's right.
Yeah, and end of tour pranks are like a thing. They've been a thing for ages. And it's always super stressful for me because I've just been the opener for a while.
Right.
And as the opener, like they're gonna screw with you the hardest.
Yeah.
And we don't bring a bass guitar out on stage. Like I don't have a bass player.
Oh, okay.
We run our bass through PA, and I just have two electrics. So. Yeah, that was just their prank. They were like, "Oh, this guy didn't have a bass guitar. Like, let's just bring as many bass guitars out as possible."
Dude, it was fucking hysterical.
It was hilarious. Dude, I almost couldn't make it through the set. I was laughing.
And it wasn't even like for a little while. It was for the majority of the set.
No, it was the entire. Right? Yeah, it was our entire set.
So at the point you realize what the hell's going on, like, do you just kind of like get into a different like mindset at that point? Where it's like,
yeah,
all right, so
it's funny too because like I don't know, my songs are so serious and like the lyrics are so deep, and like usually when I'm like playing my set, I get in this zone where like I just like am like so like in the moment with what I'm singing and what I'm doing because the lyrics are I don't have a lot of like I have some, but I don't have a lot of like fun party songs. No, like I have Excuse the Mess, I have Pray All the Way Home. We were playing Wasting All These Tears. And those are all like very serious songs where I don't need to be like, like visibly like smiling or anything. So it was the funniest part with like, there was obviously a prank going on and I'm playing all these serious songs. Like it was very different for sure. had to break character for sure, but it was hilarious though. And I realized it was a prank. I mean, I knew it was a prank, but I didn't realize they were going to keep coming out until like the second or third guy. Because they brought one out per song. Like a bass guitar came out the first or the second song, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny. Okay, bass guitar, no bass guitar on stage, got it." And
Yeah.
then the next song started, the next guitar came out, and I'm like, okay, this is getting kind of okay. And then the third song, I was like, okay, this is gonna happen the entire set. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then even didn't Travis come out with a bass too?
Yes.
And
Yep.
like that part was like, this is fucking. You knew
Yeah.
then that's what it was like. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, and they tricked me because the first song they brought out a cleaning crew for "Excuse the Mess,"
Oh, that's right.
and they
Yeah,
were sweeping up paper. And
that's
I
right.
was like, okay, this is the tour prank. This isn't too bad, whatever. And it just kept going from there. But
I mean, has anything like that happened to you before?
not at that level, no.
No.
I mean, there's usually like some green room pranks, like usually like, the headliner or like the direct support guy or whatever will like make a mess in your green room or something while you're on stage and you come back and you got to clean up the green room. We had, I was out with Chase Matthew last year, and they put baby powder in the cymbals of my drummer's drum kit. And so we came out, and he's the first one on stage because he starts the drum thing. And as soon as he hits his cymbals, just baby powder explodes everywhere. And that was what they did. But no, nothing like that. So it definitely opened my mind to what we're going to do to our openers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was pretty funny because like I said, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of shows, right? When usually where we are, we're usually in the middle of a run,
Mm-hmm.
being up in the Northeast, or we are at the very beginning, or we're at the very end.
Yeah.
There's no, and I've seen some pretty good final night of tours stuff, but like that one really took everything. It was the best one I've ever seen.
That was the best for sure. But yeah, man. Also, being like on tours like that and like where everybody's so close knit, like it helps me, like because we're gonna go on our headline tour in the fall, and I'm gonna have an opener out with me, and like being treated that way and like so like accepted by everybody is how I want to treat my openers, and like
Yeah,
that's a good way to be. It's good to have those experiences because you can definitely tell the guys that didn't have that
sure.
didn't come up through the ranks and like be on an opener slot and like be touring with an artist that's so accepting and like wants to include the opener and this and that, and like they don't do that because they weren't shown that. And so to be on a tour that that's happening and to feel that that love definitely helps me because that's what I want to do for my openers too. I want my openers to feel included and like they're helping out because they are.
Yeah. Now, where is that fall tour going to take you?
We don't have exactly all of them yet. We haven't even announced it yet. But I mean, I'm sure if it's anything like the last couple, we go everywhere. I feel like a lot of the younger artists, like do just a Southeast run and like because that's where they sell the tickets. But from the start and like whenever I was first doing my planning my tours and stuff like that, like I told the team, like I want to go everywhere, like send me everywhere, like I want to get in front of as many people's faces as possible, even if we're selling 100 tickets. I don't care, because we're going to be able to come back to that city the next year and hopefully sell 200 tickets and then do 500 tickets. So from the jump, I wanted to go everywhere, and I think we're going to keep that program. So I think we have some. Go ahead. We have some West Coast runs too in the tour, and we're going to try that as well. And I've never done my own thing on the West Coast, so we'll see.
Yeah, I can't stand. I get it, right? And you just touched on it, but I can't stand when some of these guys are coming through and they do the Southeast, the Midwest, and that's where they stay because, like you said, that's where they sell the tickets.
Yeah,
but it's like we don't get any of those guys up here because they're afraid. Or maybe not afraid.
Some of the best shows we've played are up north, man.
Right.
I mean, last year, like on the tour, like we played in New York at Gramercy, and that was one of the best selling shows we did. And we went up to Canada and sold, I think, 800 tickets up there. So I mean, I'm not shying away from the north at all.
No,
I love it up there.
You can't. We have up here in the Northeast, like there is a healthy country music fan base.
Yeah.
And like I've seen it firsthand. It's people show up and they don't give a shit what day of the week it is either.
No, man, they're ready to go because I feel like, and I don't know if this is for certain, but I mean, I feel like maybe they like up north doesn't get as many of the new artists coming up there, and so like when they do have somebody come up there, like it's like, okay, we're going to see this dude. And whereas
that's
in
exactly
the Southeast, especially in country music, where it's like, there's so much going on. There's a show, of some artists playing somewhere every week, and so I got a million chances to go see somebody play.
Right.
But you go up north, man, they ain't got enough going on up there, so we usually do pretty well up there. But I love it. I love it.
So for what you have out for music and then what's coming, what does the year look like, music wise?
Yeah, we have a lot more coming. I'm going in the studio, I think tomorrow, to record a new one. We got a song coming out this Friday, depending on when this podcast comes out. A song called Miles, and that's kind of my take on a happy, summer little anthem thing. And kind of going back to like my influences and stuff. I really, I grew up in a time where iPods were popular, and so I feel like we had it a little bit different than people before us. Whereas I got my playlist when I was in middle school went from Three Doors Down to Alan Jackson to Lil Wayne to literally everything. So I don't ever want to like marry myself to a certain sound. And I just kind of just make music that I think sounds cool. And if I like it, I feel like there's probably somebody else out there that does. So Miles is kind of my take of that. And it's got like a hip hoppy drum trap beaty kind of thing to it. And it's just a fun song. And I feel like I get too serious sometimes and forget to just write some shit that people can have a good time to, like we were in Florida last week and we were playing like a boat. We were on a barge and like there was like 4,000 boats around and like it was on a sandbar, and you got to have songs to play for those people,
Right.
So,
right.
They can't all be sad.
Right. I mean, they can, but
I would much rather write all sad songs. I'm better at doing it.
So, what does your summer look like?
Just festivals, man. We got CMA Fest coming up in a couple weeks. We're going to be doing that. I think we're playing like 7 or 8 shows for CMA Fest in Nashville. And then we're doing some opener stuff. We're playing with Dan and Shay, I think this coming weekend. And just some fairs. We're playing a bunch of fairs and then headline tour in the fall. So,
nice.
And then music-wise, I have a project coming out this year. And we're going to tour off of that project. So,
if you're doing anything close to here, we'll be there.
Come on, man.
Because I like I said, I saw you open for Brantley, and I had wanted to see you, and I feel bad. I don't even remember if I've ever seen you before. I feel like I might have, but it may have been like in passing, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And
we probably sounded like shit anyways last time you saw us.
Oh, stop. But like I was psyched to see you, and you didn't disappoint.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Well, and you didn't get the full vibe because we had 17 bass guitars on stage.
Maybe that's what you need.
Maybe I do.
Because when you after your set, you went out to your merch table, and at that point we were doing the meet and greet with Brantley, and like by the time we got out, you were already back, and I was like, son of a bitch, I was so pissed.
Yeah, we were. I try to do that after every show. I go out to the merch table and hang out and talk to folks and take pictures, and it got pretty wild on the Brantley tour. Not gonna lie,
sure.
His fans are pretty crazy. So
yeah. And that I say it all the time. Like artists that are coming up and doing that, like you guys have to do that.
Yeah, man. You gotta build the relationship. You gotta give people a reason to come back. And
right.
I'm fully aware in the fact that 90% of the crowd that was there was not there to see me.
Right.
I'm the only thing in between them. Them and who they're there to see. So you got to give people a reason to come back, and like the least I could do is go out to the merch table and say what's up, and I try to do that on the headline tour, but the venue's got to shut down after the show. And, if I do that, then the whole place is there still. So,
right. Headline tours to do that are a little harder.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. We're going to do a VIP this year though.
Nice.
Kind of do like a acoustic set before the show, I think is what the plan is. So,
that's
we'll
awesome.
do that, and I'll get the pictures with the people. So
that's really, and that's the best way to do that.
Yep.
And those are fun. For anybody that's never done one, like if there's VIP for any tour, I always tell people, especially if it's somebody you really want to meet, it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and for me, like I love to hear people's stories and stuff. Just because I do write from such a real place, and a lot of my music, without me kind of knowing all the time, like it does, affect people, and like to sit and like listen to people tell me their stories, and like, I mean, dude, like you would not believe how many people come up to, a merch table or like a VIP or whatever it is and say like, dude, this song like is the reason why I'm still here. And like, that's a heavy ass weight to carry on your shoulders.
I'm sure.
And, I mean, it helps to know that something's working, just because like the everyday life, you don't see, your songs affecting people. And like, I watch numbers too much. And like, if the numbers are doing this too long, I get stressed out. And like, if they do this a little bit, then I get even more stressed out. And so, I gain a lot from being, at those meet and greets and stuff, and to like hear that, it's worth kind of, continuing. So
yeah,
definitely helps.
Yeah. And dude, like I was listening to your stuff over the last few days just to kind of like refresh the memory.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it is good. It is.
Thank you.
It's so authentic and raw that it's just I love when I feel like a song was written for me. You know what I mean? Obviously it wasn't, but like when you can relate to something and be like, shit, you're doing a good job at that point.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I have a lot of really talented people in my corner now, and the songwriters that are coming into the rooms now, and before I was co-writing, like I would sit on a line for 3-4 hours and just like stress myself out over it. And a lot of these dudes now, it really helps me out and like kind of get my thoughts out on paper, and not get hung up so much. But I mean, dude, there's so much talent in Nashville, and a lot of these dudes have been doing this for much longer than I have. And so it's cool to have people that, I mean, the people that are writing on these big Morgan records and stuff like that I've been in the room with. It's like crazy to even fathom that,
right.
I'm getting to pick their brains and stuff. So it's, I'm a fan of the songs. I'm a fan of.
Now, how has any of the songs you've written, or other than the collab you've done with Brantley, has anything been pitched to anybody? Are you at that point? Are you?
Not yet. I mean, we've pitched a little bit around. I'm still at a point in my career where like I need to keep everything that's good,
Yeah.
And I definitely, I even had a conversation with my team, this earlier this year, that I do want to try to pitch some stuff around and get some cuts and some stuff like that, and some people with a bigger platform than I have, and but no, nothing yet. I mean, we've kind of pitched things around. Actually, I think we just got one cut from a Canadian artist that's gonna take it to radio. So we'll see how that pans out. But,
nice. And I think about it, and I say that because like I remember I saw Josh Phillips. You know who Josh Phillips is?
Yep.
Yeah. So I saw Josh open for for Brantley. Actually.
I was gonna say it probably was in that wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah, because so the first time I saw Brantley, it was Josh Phillips, Aaron Lewis, and Brantley.
Yeah.
And talk about a tour, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And Josh is a really, really good friend of mine.
Yeah, and then like Josh's solo stuff. I don't want to say like disappears, right? But he writes fucking songs all by himself now for Cody Johnson. You know what I mean? So it's
that
like
song, bro. I text him probably. I mean, earlier this year it was like probably monthly. Like I would text him and tell him like, dude, this song is something special, bro.
Yeah.
And I mean, that dude is on another level, bro.
It's special when my 9-year-old. That's Dirt Cheap is like his favorite song, like ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you think about it, and it's like literally Josh is the only fucking writer on that whole song. Like,
yeah, dude. I mean, dude, the line. What is the line? Something about she never could turn away astray.
Yeah.
And that song is one of the coolest lines I've ever heard in my life, and I'm such a big fan, dude. And he's a good friend of mine. But
he's somebody I would love to sit down and talk to.
He's a great dude, man.
Fucking pick that dude's brain, because like I said, I saw him 8-9 years ago now, like, and he was all by himself, acoustic. and
Yeah, I know he was trying to do the artist thing for a while. I think he's just writing songs now, man. I think
yeah,
he's
I mean, why not?
he's
If
doing
you're
it.
gonna pull out number one, number one song by yourself, why not?
Yeah, I think we're writing together soon, actually.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm a big fan. That's somebody I look up to for
Well,
sure.
next time you see him, you tell him that this is a show he needs to come
I'll
on.
let him know for sure. Yeah.
I have no shame in my game, Austin. Fucking
Oh, I don't either, bro. I don't
No.
either. I reach out to people on Instagram. I think that's how we met. Actually, I reached out to him on Instagram. I was like, "Hey, bro, I don't know. You probably don't know me from Adam, but I would love to
Right.
write with you." And we
I
ended
mean,
up.
that's how I do a lot of it too. Like, I don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
but like, even like, I had no idea that even Travis co-wrote. What the fuck
That
was that
Carrie
song?
Underwood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had no. I mean, if I did know, I kind of just probably in one ear out the other.
Yeah.
And then when he said it, I was like, and like you think about it, and you hear the song and you hear the lyrics, it's like, yeah, that is a Travis Denning song, like 100%.
Yeah. Actually, the first time I met Travis was on the tour, and the first thing that I said to him, because I don't know if you heard that song called Southern Rock that he put out with Hardy.
Yeah.
Great song, by the way. But we wrote a song. It was actually me and Josh wrote a song called Southern Rock, and it was the exact same title, exact same idea, and had all the exact same like metaphors and stuff in it. And as soon as I met Travis, I was like, Travis, I just want to let you know you pissed me off, bro. Because we had this song, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then they put out Southern Rock before, and they wrote that song back in 2017.
Yeah.
But that was my first interaction with Travis, and he was like, man, I'm sorry, bro. I got to it first. But yeah, he's a good dude, man. Travis is super talented.
Yeah, he is.
He plays guitar too.
What's that?
I said he can play the shit out of guitar.
He really can. And like to be a lefty and to play guitar the way he does, like that's some talent.
People overlook his guitar playing. He's massively talented.
Yeah, I say it all the time. He's probably one of the top 5 like underrated artists in country music, and I think it's because when he got super popular, COVID like just hit.
Ruined it for a lot of people, man.
Yeah. So it's like he almost had to start from scratch again.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks, man.
Yeah, it does. And social media is running the game now. So
it sure is. It sure is. So like I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know you're busy and you got a million things to do, and I honestly
I didn't have anything to do today, bro. That's all I had.
Well, I mean,
woke up from a nap. I'm gonna take another one.
There you go. I got out of work late, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna not,
Yeah, you're good.
Here you were early.
Hey, it's not a very common trend.
No, not at all. I can't tell you how many times I sit on these things, and I'm like, where the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
But
no, man, I appreciate your time too, man. I appreciate you giving your time to come.
Hell, man, anytime. And honestly, next time you're up in the area, let us know because
we'll welcome anytime y'all want. Y'all hit me up or hit management up. And we'll get y'all some tickets, whatever y'all want to do.
Yeah, we'll come and we'll drink beers together. That'll be great.
For sure.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and keep kicking ass, man.
I'll try to.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. See ya. Well, there you have it, everyone. Our conversation with Austin Snell. Austin, again, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. Again, I hope you guys had a great 4th and enjoyed the show. And, again, our hearts are out with everybody out in Central Texas. That's really it. We'll be back next week with another episode. Who's going to be on? I think Chris Pogue is going to be on next Tuesday. He is Whiskey Myers photographer. I know we said that 2 weeks ago, and I just bear with me, guys. So yeah, I think that's who's on. We got a bunch of episodes that still need to come out, but yeah. So enjoy your week. Be good to each other, and we'll see you down the road, guys. Cheers.